Shalom Aleichem. We're starting now the sugya in Yumei Daf Yud Aleph and Aleph. Tan Rabbanan b'sharecha. Echad shari batim, v'echad shari chatzeros, v'echad shari medinos, v'echad shari ayaros. Yesh b'hem chovas mitzvah l'makom. B'shem shenemar chsavtem al mezuzos b'secha v'sharecha. So the order over here seems to be very strange. It says this ribui of b'sharecha, which seems to be ribui pashtas deraisa. So it's sounding echad shari batim. So we're starting from the house, the most pashat chiyuv. And then echad shari chatzeros, go one level removed from the house. We go to the chatzer, we say that's also chayav. Echad shari medinos, then we go out to the shar of the medina. Echad shari ayaros, and then we go from the medina to the city. So the order should be, if anything, it should be city and then medina. If we're going out from the house further out to say that not only this but all that, also not only this but also that. So why do we switch the order between medina and ayaros? This is the order of the Rashash. Because Rashi learns over here that Echad Shar Medinos, Yesh Medina Ukefes Harim V'Yarim V'Kama Parsos Ein Yotzim Mimena El Derech Sharim could go to Eretz Hagar. So he says, like in certain Arab countries that they have mountains around it, and the only way to get through is through a shar. That would be a sharia medina. That's the only way to get through. That and Mela has a chiyuv, because if you could walk in many ways, then pashtas wouldn't be a chiyuv on that particular shar, because it doesn't open directly to a house. Rashi is saying. So it's the only way in, then it's chayav. But the mice of the kasha is still there. So the Rashash, he wants to say that, I guess it's Lule Rashi, that Shari Medinos really means Shari Ayaros. And it's Shari Ayaros that are Mukefes Choma, that have a wall around them. So Shari Medinos means a city that has a wall around it, and Shari Ayaros would be a city that does not have a wall around it. They tell us that both of those are chayav, but then the order is okay because it's telling us more and more of a chiddush each time. So that's the Rashash learns, but the way Rashi seems to learn not that way. He seems a little bit sarachiyun in what's shot in the order of the Gemara. Al kapanim, that's what it says. And then the Gemara ends off that all these things have a chovas mitzvah l'makom. Shenemar chsavtem al mezuzos b'secha v'sharecha. It's also a strange lashon to say it as a chovas mitzvah l'makom. Why doesn't it just say that it's chayav, like every other place, whether it's chayav or pater? What's this lashon, chovas mitzvah l'makom? So I saw in the sefer called the Siach Yitzchak, one of the Achronim on Yuma, that he wants to say a chiddush over here that until now, all the cases that we have, that the mezuzah is on the house or even on the chutzner of the house, which directly connects to the house. So we've talked about the idea of shmira that there is on the house, and the shmira is not just an incidental thing, but it seems to play a very big part, a very important part in Hilchos Mezuzah. So when a person has the shmira, even though your kavanah is supposed to be l'shem shemayim, you're supposed to put a mezuzah up because the Kadosh Baruch Hu commanded us to put up a mezuzah. But so close up, there is this element of shmira there, which the person could have in mind. And he says that when you put the mezuzah up on the Shari Medinos and Shari Ayaros that are not going directly in any house, then you don't have that shmira to the house. It's purely a mitzvah for Kodesh Baruch Hu to put it up, even though it doesn't have any mitzvah. It's clear and it's obvious that that's a mitzvah for Kodesh Baruch Hu, because you don't have that extra koach achar urabo, your extra toilets that you get from the shmira. So that's why the Gemara says over here that it has that. Don't think that you only have to put a mezuzah where you get shmira, where you get this extra this extra hana out of it. But even over here, it's a chovas mitzvah on the makom. It's mitzvah Kadosh Baruch Hu to put it up. Perhaps we could say also another shot that the Ritva learns over here. Shitas of Ritva is that the chiyuv of sharim and all these other extra sharim, besides perhaps the chatzar, but the other sharim are only a chiyuv d'Rabbanan. The ikar chiyuv mid'oraisa is only on the house, and the sharim, when it says the sharecha, means the sharim on the house, not extra sharim to go further out. So the whole chiyuv of these further sharim is only a chiyuv midrabanan. Now the Rambam is clearly not that way. The Rambam clearly says with the lemdus that we discussed earlier in previous shiurim. The Rambam says that when he starts off in Perek Vav Zayin about certain types of batim like chasadu and merpesis and kina, etc. They're pater, but if the batim chayavim mezuzah psuchim lo kamas elu chayavim gam hen mezuzah, then if the house is open into them, then those places like a gina, etc. are chayav. And the fikach, he says echad shari chatzeros and halacha ches, echad shari mavoyos, echad shari medinos, ayaros kulan chayavim b'mezuzah, shari batim chayavim mezuzah psuchim l'sochan. Afilu asara psuchim zeh pasuach zeh lazeh pasuach lazeh hoil v'pnimi chayav mezuzah kulan chayavim. Mipnei amru shar pasuach minagina l'chatzer chayav mezuzah. So the Rambam clearly says that we extend the chiyuv that there is in the house all the way to the other mezuzah, everything that opens into the house, even if there are 10 sha'arim, but one opens into the other. Since so close they get to the makom chiyuv inside, then they all are chayav. And the Rambam never said a word here about it being b'drabanan. He just extends the ikar chiyuv over here, which the Rambam B'chal never mentioned a chiyuv b'drabanan in all the halachas over here. There's no such thing as either it's pater or it's chayav. If it's chayav b'deraisa. So that's the machlokes Rambam and Ritva. But so according to the Rambam that it's a chiyuv deraisa on the sha'arim, then you have to say something like the Siach Yitzchak, that the chiddush of the Gemara that's called mixed l'makom is telling us even though you're not going to get that particular shmir of your house, it's still chiyuv like Kodesh Baruch Hu. According to the Ritva, that it's a chiyuv midrabanan. It's only, and even though the Gemara brings a pasuk, it's only in a smachta of alma. It's only just being, it's just a remnant of the pasuk. But the ikar chiyuv is only midrabanan on this and the other sha'arim. So then that could be the pshat, the cholas mitzvah l'makom, meaning it's a not just a regular pasuk chiyuv, but it's a chiyuv midrabanan. Could be possibly pshat in the Gemara according to the Ritva. Now it's interesting that the Torah, when he brings this halacha down, he puts it together in the beginning of Reish Pei Vav. The very beginning of Reish Pei Vav in Sif Aleph, the Torah says, "Ve'elahen ha'makama shachayavim b'mezuzah, echad sha'arei batim v'shari chatzeros, medinos va'yaros." He keeps the order of the Gemara. Refes bakar v'lulin v'tevin osos yain v'shemen abeis isha abeis shutfin kulen chayavim. So the Torah puts it together, these sha'arim, together with the chiyuv of beis tevin and lul tzurkanagolim and refes bakar, like the upcoming sugya. So we're not sure exactly what the Torah is being ramiz to with that, the way the Torah is bringing that down. Bakaponim, he just writes that the chayav doesn't distinguish between any chiyuv d'rabanan and d'oraisa. Sorry, close the door. The Pashtus, the Torah is telling us that the chiyuv is not distinguishing. He's talking about the ikar chiyuv at the beginning of Reish Pei Vav. Pashtus, they're all a chiyuv d'oraisa. Now the Bach over here in the beginning of Reish Pei Vav says very important chiddush. Says tzarach sheteda t'ein din zeh shel shari medinos v'ayaros. This halacha we have in this Gemara of shari medinos and shari ayaros. The Bach puts a big hagbala on this chiyuv. He says this din is not knowing ella hecha she'ein sham dira k'inu liYisraelim v'lo lagoyim. It's only if the city or the Medina has only Jews and no goyim. Di'a kanami dira lagoyim. I feel the Rubam Yisrael, even if you have Rov Yisrael, but there's I guess somewhat significant number of goyim there. I don't think it means there's one goy, but it means there's goyim there. Piturium milasas mezuzah shu sakana. Then it becomes you become pater for putting mezuzah on a shari medinos on ayaros because it becomes a sakana. Like the Gemara said later on, could Amar Abaya Hasam 100 times with the Asam mezuzah the shari a year the mechuzah. In mechuzah they didn't put it up because of sakana. Avabin shayu ruban Yisrael shum ika sakana shal yomar hamelech kshafim v'sisam b'shari iyeri. Kadetanya mezuzas yochin nivdekes pamayim b'shavua b'shal rabim pamayim b'yovel. So that the melech shouldn't say that they're doing kshafim in my city, and that could cause a sakana to the Jews if you have a goyish leadership there. You have a goyish mayor, king, whatever, in that city, and goyim living there. So even though it's predominantly Jewish, but if it's the government is goyim, then it becomes a sakana. And the Gemara goes on to say that our Gemara, the Amar Rav Yehuda Ma'aseh ba'artzavan echad shayabodik mezuzas b'shuk elyon shel tzipori and matzah kasdor echad v'natav menu elev zuz. So the Bach brings a raya from the Ma'aseh in Tzipori when the mayor or whatever it was took from the Jew to put it up. This kasdor took 1,000 zuz away from the Jew. So we see from this also when the Bach goes on. The fact that they did a b'dik over there once every twice in every yovel, I guess, and it's going to be times when goyim are not around. But he says if goyim are around, you don't check it at all because it becomes a sakana even to check the mezuzah. If it's a place that you're not going to be able to do a b'dika, it's too dangerous to do a b'dika, then you don't have to put up mezuzah at all. And he says, "High time alo osin mezuzah b'shari ha'ir demachuzah, you can't hack brayse the mechaya b'shari medinas ha'eros that a kulan Yisrael darim by." So the box says a tremendous chiddush that our whole sugya that says that there's a chiyuv and shari ayaros in medinas is only if it's kula Yisrael. And he says since it's such a davar pashet, how can we leave that out? We don't see that not in the Rishonim, not in the Achronim. So the Bach says it's b'chiddush lefishi davar pashet kasvua poskim istam v'lo pirshu. Since it's such an obvious thing, the poskim didn't need to say this. So that's again a tremendous chiddush that you would think for sure they do need to say it. So he goes on and explains according to this. Mizeh tam nami ein osim mezuzah b'shari rachavesenu go Krakow or Prague shakavu sharim v'rachavos Yehudim mizgorim b'layla v'lo kavah mezuzah mi'olam v'anatayim b'shum sakana. That he says in Krakow and in Prague, even though there are gates that are closed at night over the Jewish ghetto there. 1 second. Hello, Israel. I'm didn't see anything. I'm just recording. I'm doing it in the middle of this year. But that's what it said when I tried to get on to begin with, and then so it said cancel the old meeting and go a new one. I did, and then so now I'm like a third of the way through. I don't know. I have no clue. Let's see. Manage participants invite. Where it says, okay. Yeah, and then choose your email service to send invitation. Yahoo Mail, Gmail, default. So what should I do? Okay. Let's see, we'll try that. Cats. Toy.org. Yeah, okay, I just sent it. Okay, you gotta tell them already in the middle. So it says enter your password. Do I need this? Okay, so I'll just keep going. Okay. All right. Okay, thanks. So the Bach finishes off by saying that he says over here that it's going to cost sakana. That Lilas HaMoshel was the menace Tamid Asani Israel is constantly the Goyish Moshelim are constantly looking for reasons to the anti-Semites looking for something against us. And it brings also in the name of the Aguda Al Shari Kehilas Colonia, in Kehilas Vermaiza. These are cities in Germany, Cologne and Vermaiza, I guess in France and Germany. Ainala Perakama Yuma Via Beis Yosef. So that's number one. So the Bach says that when there's a Makom Sakana, which means anywhere the Goyim are living there, or there's a non-Jewish government, then it becomes Patzer. When we tam Achre Nosen Shamazoza came to Goyim Yitlua, Bavada Yibazua, it came you Gorman Bizayan Lekisva Kodesh. So then another reason he says, besides the tainas they're going to have on the Jews, and etc., that they're going to cause problems with us, also possibly they'll take them as a maybe mavazet, and that would be bizayon kisvei kodesh, which that is its own problem. That's its own issue. Two separate issues over here. There's the anti-Semitism that it could cause a sakana to Jews, and we see from the Bach also from bringing a ride from our Gemara that it's nichlal and sakana that one policeman or wherever he was that he counted the Jew 1,000 zuz. We see that sakana doesn't over here necessarily mean sakanas nefashos. It means also sakanas mammon. The fact that he's going to take large sums of money from you, that's also considered a sakana legabi this patur. So that's a very important bach, a very important hashara to the sugya that that shari medina sayar is not so shaykh. And you look around the world, they're really I guess we'd have to take a poll, but he's saying that in Krakow and Prague they didn't have it. When there were no more Jewish cities in the world than Krakow and Prague during the days of the Bach. They were completely Jewish ghettos. Even so, by the same token, the sakana was much greater. Like today, things are, I don't want to say they're gone. Obviously, we have anti-Semitism on the rise again. So it's hard we can't, put our heads and say there's no sakana anymore and things are just fine. But by the same token, we haven't yet found Baruch Hashem problems with people putting up mezuzahs in America. So Lu Yitzur, you would have a completely Jewish city, or even with a few goyim there. I'm sure that if they would have a shar and I don't know what happens in Kiryas Yoel, it's got places, then the shar of the ear would possibly be chayav in such a case. That's a city Shekula Yisrael. Okay, going on to the next. Going on to the next sugya. Before I go on, I'm going to just check and see if there seems to be a problem with anybody getting onto this here. Try one more time. We're on a station identification and trying to get this out to Yisrael Katz because there's a problem with anybody getting in before we start the next sugya. Okay, it looks like we finally got some people on. So we're going to keep going. You'll be able to hear the recording from the beginning. We just finished the first part of the sugya in Yud Aleph and Mud Aleph in Yuma, the Sharecha, the din of Sha'arim, and we're going to go now on to the next sugya. Amalei Abaya, the Rasafra, Hani Abuli, the Mekuza, my time the Abdu Mezuzah. Why in these places in Mekuza, these Sharim, why do they not make mezuzahs? Amalei Hanu Chizuk Akra, the Kubi Hudavidi. They're only for the Chizuk Tikra. They're not there to really be Sharim, to be mezuzahs. Amalei Akra, the Kubi Gufa, the boy mezuzah. This guardhouse, maybe it should need a mezuzah itself. The Isba, Dira, the Shomer, Beis Asurim, because it has the Shomer that watches over this guardhouse for the jail. He sits there. Da'atanya Beis Knesset, Sheish Beis Dira, the Chazan Knesset Chayavim mezuzah. It's enough that it's a Beis Dira for the Chazan Knesset, so it's also here for the guardhouse, for this jail, it should need a mezuzah. The real reason why we don't put up the gate is because of sakana, like we just discussed from the Bach. The meaning of sakana doesn't have to mean sakanas nefashos, but even mominous, like we see in the Brisa, mezuzahs, like it's the tiny mezuzahs yachid dekas pamayim b'shavua, sharabim pamayim b'yovel. If it's an individual mezuzah, we do it twice every 3 years, and that's a halacha not too many people know about, that we have to check our mezuzahs twice every 3 years to make sure that it's okay. It doesn't mean you have to send it to a sofer. If you know it was good to begin with, then you just have to check it and make sure that it didn't get deformed, didn't get ruined from the moisture. And anybody could really tell that. You don't have to have a new badika every 3.5 years. If you know to begin with they were kosher, they were done by a proper sofer. You just want to make sure they didn't get ruined because of sometimes, especially the outside mezuzahs, there's a lot of moisture sometimes and heat, and even inside mezuzahs sometimes can get ruined, inadvertently. But a shel rabim, it's supposed to be twice every 50 years. And it's interesting what they explain here, the Rishonim, because of tircha de tzibura, to do it more than that. Interesting that we do so many things with the tzibur and we can't check a mezuzah more than that. Okay, that's what it says. There was a Jew that was checking the mezuzahs in Tzipori. Some kind of a policeman found him in order to not do worse than that. He took from him 1,000 zuz. So the Bach, when he brings us down, which we discussed just now, before this, seems to imply from here that sakana doesn't necessarily mean it if sakanas nefashos. And Ramosha speaks about this in a tshuva. If it was sakanas nefashos, it'd be pasha. We wouldn't need to tell Sachidish over here if it was literally danger of life to put up a mezuzah. we're talking over here, even Sakanos Manman, even there's a chance they might fine you an inordinate fine, like 1,000 zuz, that also is a patur. It's considered a sakana for putting out mezuzah. So the Gemara asks a side kasha, which we'll just mention, interesting Maisa. The Gemara asks on the side, Bamar Rabbi Lazar, shluchei mitzvah ein nizokin. So how could it be that he was nizok by getting 1,000 zuz? This happened to him by to check a mezuzah. It's a well-known Gemara, the Gemara in Psachim and Kedusha and other places, that shluchei mitzvah, someone is on his way to do a mitzvah, then there's a promise they're not going to be nizok. So the Gemara answers, Hechad de kaviyah hazeka shayini. If you put yourself in a makom sakana, that you do a hezek, and you say, I'm going to put myself in a makom sakana, even though it's a sakana, I'm going to do it anyway because it's a mitzvah. That's different. Hashem told Shmuel to go and anoint David Melech, and he said, "How can I go? Shaul will hear about it, and he'll kill me." He says, Hashem told him, "Here's a teretz, here's an alibi. Why you're going to bring a korban, even though you're really going to be Moshech as David." So, but how can Shmuel be concerned? How can he say to Hashem that he'll kill me if he's being sent by Hashem himself to do a mitzvah, and we say shluch mitzvah and is okay? But he says no. But if it's shriach hazeka, we know Shaul is out to get David, and anybody that would get involved with him would be putting himself in a makom sakana. And even though Hashem himself, not only regular mitzvah, but Hashem Kodesh Baruch Hu himself told Shmuel to go do this, still it would be a problem of sakana because it's shriach hazeka. So also over here, it's shchiach, this hezek, the goyim are looking, like the Bach says in the beginning of the Simon in Reish Vavav, that the goyim are always looking for alilos. Their anti-Semites are always looking for reasons to get us, especially in the cities he's talking about, like in Krakow, that, as you know, was eventually destroyed completely. So nothing has really changed, and they're always looking for reasons to get us. So that's called shchicha hazeka, to put it in front of these type of goyim. Just on the side, there's a Maisa once well-known Maisa with Rav Cutler, that's all, that after the Second War, they had the Hatzalah organization that during the war was saving Jews, and after the war also they're raising a lot of money to bring money and food care packages to the DP camps in Germany and France and other places where Jews were, because even though they were past the war, but people were starving there, they weren't providing enough sustenance and medicines, etc. So there was a Jew that was mamuna to take a large sum of money. At that time, right after the Second War, for the first time, they opened up transatlantic domestic flights. Before that, the only transatlantic flights were only military flights. So the first time after the war was over, once they already could fly over the Atlantic, then they opened it also for domestic flights. And this person was sent on one of the first flights to France to bring a large sum of money to the DP camps to provide to the Jews there. And he made it there. On the way back, his plane crashed. Planes were relatively new at that time, and it crashed over the ocean, and nobody survived. And they published a list of everybody on there, including this Jew, which is tragically on this flight. So the family went to approach Rav Cutler and asked them, since there's no burial and everything like that, so exactly when did they start Shiva? How do they do Shiva? And how's going to be the Yortzeit and Shiva, etc. So Rav said, "What? There's no Shiva. There's no Shiva. There's no Yortzeit. There's no Shiva. He's fine." So what do you mean? The plane crashed and nobody's alive. He said, he's fine. So, but they published the list, and he's on the list. And Ryan said, "The list could make a mistake. I'm telling you, he's fine." So they said to him, "What do you mean he's fine?" I mean, they walked in hysterical, and broken and hysterical, and here Ryan's telling them that everything's fine. How does the Rosh Yeshiva know that? And he said, "I have a Gemara. The Gemara says, Shluchim mitzvah in nizokin, lo b'halichasam, lo b'chazarasam." Not on the way there, not on the way back. He was a shluch mitzvah. He was on his way back from that. So there's no way that he was hurt by anything, and it's a mistake. So shortly thereafter, they received a telegram from this person that he missed his flight. By Rav Cutler, Chazal say it's a fact. It's emes. It's a fact. It's not It's not a hashara. It's not just a nice word, but it's a mitzias. By him, there was no shiva. There was no yortzeit. He's fine, and Yitzhak was fine. But the Gemara says over here, though, but shchicha zek shiny, put yourself in a place that's avada makom sakana. That's different. Going on to the next sugya. Hani, Tani Rav Kana, Kamed Rav Huda, Besa Tevin, a Besa Bakar, a Besa Eitzim, a Besa Otzros, Tuar Min Mezuzah, Bipnei Shah Nashim Naosos Ben. My Naosos Rochtos. So Rav Kana quotes this brisa in front of Rav Yehuda. Pashtas Rav Yehuda was his Rebbe. That says over here that a Besa Tevin, a storehouse for straw, the Besa Bakar, the place where they, like a barn, where they keep the cattle. Besa Eitzim, the place where they keep the firewood, little huts or houses, whatever that they keep these, like the firewood house. Besa Otzros, other types of storage houses for yayin and shemen. Turim min mezuzah. Why? This brisa says because the women get dressed there. Which Rav Kana learns. What does that mean in the osos? That they get dressed up there, and rochtas, they wash there. It means they wash their arumos in a place that it's not mechubadik to put a mezuzah, and therefore it's pater. Because they're rochtas. But if they wouldn't be doing that, if the nashim would not be rochtas there, then all of these mukomos would be chayav in a mezuzah. Stam that should be chayav, and that's what Rav Huda says to him. Amar Rav Huda, Tamid rochtas. You're telling me that the only reason there should be pater is because women take baths there. Ha stamach chayavim, but you must be holding that if the women are not washing there, women do not take baths there, they're not arumos there, then these places would all be chayav stam. By Vatanya, we're learning in a brisa, Refes Bakar Pturim and Mezuzah. I have a brisa that says the opposite. Refes Bakar was one of the cases you brought is. He brought a Besa Bakar. There might be a difference between a Refes Bakar and a Besa Bakar. It's hard to know what that is, but he understood that they're the same. The Pater Min Mezuzah, and it said that they're stam. It didn't specify because women, do things of tzina there, that they're arumos there. Other mind usos is kashtos. So what does neusos mean? From my brisa, you see that when it says that they get dressed up there, neusos means on the contrary. It means pshuto, no, like they beautify themselves. That's where they put on their jewelry and their makeup, but they don't wash there. V'achitani, and here's what the price is saying. Aval pisha nasim is kashas behem turim. These things are so they're stam putter, and there's so much not a reason to be mechayv because they're not a base dira. That even if they get dressed there, they put on their they're not rumos, but they put on their makeup and things there, it's still pater. So Rav Kana answered him back, Vashanoshim is kashas ben turim. You're going to say that if they're pater, even if they get dressed up there, even if they put on their makeup there, Vatanya, Refes Bakar, Tumrim Mezuzah, Vashanoshim is kashas ben chayavs ben mezuzah. I have a before-ish brisa that says that if they get dressed there, they are chayav ben mezuzah. And Mayas Chalam Eimar is kashas nahi. So what are you going to tell me? You're going to say, well, that's machlokes tanoim. Getting dressed there is machlokes tanoim. What you want to say that it's pater, even though it's miskashtos, here's before his price of the chayavas. You'll say, okay, it's machlokes tanoim, and I hold like the one that says they're pater. So ledidi nami stama tanahi. For me also, I can say that it's machlokes tanoim. And where's this machlokes tanoim? Where is this? Tanya, because it says in a third brisa, or perhaps the fourth brisa, Beisecha, it says in the Torah, put mezuzahs Beisecha. Beisecha miyuchad laka. Your house means it has to be miyuchad for you, for your living. Prat, the Beisa Tevin, or the Beisa Bakar, the Beisa Eitzim, the Beisa Otzar, Shepturim in mezuzah, because it's not miyuchad laka to live there. V'yesh mechayvin. But there's a second time, that's the Tanakama says your pater, but the Yesh Mechayv holds your Chayav. And then the Brisa finishes off. The Emes Amru, that means it's the Kuli Alma, Besa Kisei, Besa Bursaki, Besa Merchatz, Besa Tfila, Beshanashim, Neusas Behem, Turos Min Mezuzah. That a Besa Kisei, a bathroom, or the tannery house that has a terrible smell. Beis Merchatz, the place where they go for their baths, the bathhouse, and the place where the Beis Tefillah that the women are Nu'usas behen. We don't know what Nu'usas means yet. They're all patur from mezuzah. So each one is going to explain this brisa according to his own opinion, which the way they explain it, the way Rehuda is going to explain it, is going to come out other yesodos. They're going to be very important for this sugya halacha l'maisa. So how do they explain this brisa? Rav Kana b'taretz l'taimei, Rehuda b'taretz l'taimei. Each one explains it according to their own shita. Rav Kana b'taretz l'taimei. Beischa miyuchad l'cha prat l'beis teven, beis bakar, beis eitzim, and beis otzer shepturim and mezuzah b'stam. Yesh v'chayvim b'stam. He learns that the case is stam, meaning that it's not a place that the women take baths. And those places, those makamos. And some say they're pater b'stam, meaning stam when women are not rochetz. Yeshim chayvim b'stam. Some say are chayiv. Be'emes amru. Second. Yeah. Be'emes amru beis akisa beis abriski beis merchatz. Beis atfila shenashim nos behem. My nosos means rochtzos. If the women wash there, then pturim. Yihachi haina merchatz. The same thing as merchatz. Ashmina merchatz the rabbin, ashmina merchatz the yachi. We have to tell us a chiddush that a merchatz of not only of rabbin is pater, but also of yachid is pater. Satak amina merchatz the rabbin. Nafesh zumei zuhamei. Merchatz the yachid lo nafesh zumei emel lechayim mezuzah kamash balan. So it kind of learns that stam is chayiv. The only time you're pater when it's nafesh zuhamei. Very important yisod. If it's the zuhama is like filth, and these places can be extra filthy because they get very steamy and smelly, and so you might have thought that only a big merchatz like the rabbin, like a public one, has that much steam and it gets very, very sort of smelly and everything there because of it. Only there is a pater, but a yachid, it's not so steamy. You might have thought that it's chayav kamash malan, that it's still pater. That's the way Rav Kahana learns it, but it comes out that only because of the nafesh zuhamei, otherwise these places are all chayav, because stama is chayav according to Rav Kahana. And Rav Yehuda b'taretz l'taimei. Rav Yehuda learns it his way. Hachitani, beischa miyuchal. It has to be your house that you live in. Prat the beis of teven, beis of bakar, beis of eitzim, beis of otzros that are patim in a mezuzah. Even miskashtas. He learns that even if the women get dressed there, they put on their makeup and their jewelry there. Yesh mechayvim miskashtas. Some say you're chayav if they put up their makeup and jewelry. Aval stam divrei kol pater. Rehuda wants to learn that stam, everyone holds their pater. Meaning stam, meaning if they don't get dressed there, then since a base of bakar and base of eitzim, etc., are not a place that are miyuchad l'dira, you don't live there, then everyone agrees that you're pater. That's Rehuda's shita. And then we go on to say that all these other places are pater, base of merchatz, etc. They're all pater because nafesh zuhamei. They're all considered nafesh zuhamei, even though they're considered a filthy place, and it's not mechubed to the mezuzah to put it there, even by a yachid. So then the Gemara asks a kasha, we bring a raya that Rehuda wants to say that stam, there is no machlokas. The only machlokas is only when miskashtas, when they get dressed up. But it's stam, everyone agrees it's pater. So we bring in one more brisa that proves that there's at least a shita which holds that stam is chayav. So the Gemara ends off tiyufta. It's a tiyufta on Rav Yehuda, not a tiyufta on Rav Yehuda's shita, but tiyufta on Rav Yehuda saying that it's the kuli alma, that everyone agrees that stam is pater. We see that at least one Tana holds that stam is chayav. So we have a tiyufta on Rav Yehuda inside his way he's learning up. I mean, Rav Yehuda could still say, okay, I agree it's a machlokas, but I paskin like the shita that holds stam is pater. That you could do. And in fact, the Gemara, after the tiyufta, the Gemara turns around and says, Tani Rav Shmuel Bar Yehuda Kamei Rava Shisha Sharim Turim and Mezuzah. There are 6 types of sharim that are pater. There's a teven, there's a bakar, there's a eitzim, there's a otzros, shar amadai, v'shar she'ena makura, shar she'ena gavoa yud. So we bring it's really 7. The Gemara says afterwards. We'll see that that's the next sugya. But this brisa Tani Rav Shmuel Bar Yehuda before Rava says Beferish, like Yehuda Shita, that Stam is Pater. Because it's talking about Beis Shar and Beis Tevin, Beis Bakar, Beis Eitzim, all these things that doesn't say that they're the Nashim Rochtas Behem. So we see that Stam is Pater, according to this last brisa. So we see that the Tiyufta on Rabbi Yehuda was not on his Shita, because there is now another brisa like him. It's just a Tiyufta to say it's L'chuli Amas, Taka Machlokas. And now the Shaila is, how do we paskin? What's the din for Stam? That's one Shaila. And second of all, what's the Nukudas Machlokas? What's really the Amkos of the Machlokas between Yehuda and Rav Kana if Stam is Pater? Now the halacha, to get to the halacha, the Rif in the end of Menachos, the very end of Hilchos Mezuzah, near the end of the last daf of Mezuzah, he says, he just writes Pashat, Beis Tevin, or Beis Bakar, or Beis Eitzim, or Beis Baisha Nashim, Rochtas, what should be Nu'us Behem. Sorry, the other way. Yes, I'm sorry. Beis Tevin, or Beis Bakar, or Beis Eitzim, Shah Nashim, Rochtas Behem, Turas Min Mezuzah. So the Rif writes that these places, if Nashim Rochtas Behem, it's a place that the women are standing arumos, then they're pater. So we see that the Rif is paskening that the only reason they're pater is because they're omdim arumos, because they're Rochtas Behem. But if they would be stam, if they're not doing that, then all these places are chayav. So stam is chayav, which is like Shitas Rav Kana. And right away the Shilta Giborim on the spot says, Maiman Polig, because of She'ein Chayavim, Ela Im Ken, Shanashim Yosef, this Kashit Sham, Meshiyesh Sham Yichud, the Diras Adam, Alva Stam Peturim, Petur Maskim, the Das Rabbeinu. So the Shilta Giborim spells that already, that it's a major machlokes Rishonim. The Rambam in Perik Vav of Mezuzah, Halacha Zayin, says Beis Tevin, Beis Bakar, Beis Eitzim, Beis Otzros, Pturim Min Mezuzah, Shenemar Beisecha, Beiska Hamyucha Lecha, Prat La'elu Kiyotza Ben. He takes that last brisa of the Rambam and learns up that these things are all Pturim because it's not Beiska Hamyucha Lecha. There are other nafkaminas also. There are other sugyas throughout Shas. There's a sugya in Sota that talks about that these places also, these types of houses are pater. It's the chiyuv of let's say if ein chozon aleim me'orchei milchama. If somebody builds one of these houses like a Beis Tevin or a Beis Bakar, and then we know that if a person builds a house in V'lo Chinuch, he didn't get to live in it yet. So that's one of the Pturim from Milchama that the Kohen Meshuach Milchama calls out anybody who built the house and didn't live in it yet has to go back. So there's a drush over there to be mayat these things, these types of houses from considered a house. So the question, what do you need a mute for? Is it pashat? They're not a base dira. Each makom has its own gidri achiyuv. Over here, the getter of the chiyuv is beiska baisan yuchalacha. The Rambam is taking that last brisa as the final brisa of halacha, that it has to be yuchalacha ladira, and yatsu elu that they're not yuchal ladira. Lefikach, he says, the Rambam, refes bakar shanashim yoshvos ba miskashtos ba chayeves b'mezuzah shar yesh ba yichu ladiras adam. So the Rambam explains that when nashim miskashtos, if they sit there, he adds in that they don't just do it. He says that yoshvos ba miskashtos ba, they sit in it and get. So the Rambam explains a little bit further. He's marchiv a little bit that not just they just walk in and put on their makeup and leave. But it sounds like the women sit there a little bit. It's like it is a place for them when they want to get away or whatever. When they do their things that are away from the rest of the house. They sit in this refes bakar. It's interesting, I think the last place a woman would want to go and get dressed up for the chasana would be in the refes bakar. I think women are a little different today, or the refes bakar is different, or both. I don't know how many women today would go and get dressed up for the chasana in the barn where all the cows are, but we don't really get it. It's a different world now. So the Rambam says that if the women sit there a little bit and they and they're miskashtas ba, shayesh ba yichud the diras adam. That's considered a important chelik of a woman's dira that they get dressed up. So that's called yichud the diras adam. So that comes out that the machlokas over here, the Rama is paskening that the stam is pater like a Yehuda, and some Nusach say that he's really, the Rama is going really paskening like the last shita, the final shita. At the end of it all, we had this very last day of Tani Kamei to Rava that listed stam, they see as a pater, but stam. So we see that the achra, the Rama learns the achra, the sugya, the final achra is that stam is pater, unless it's miskashta, so that adds in the element of its miyuchad the diras adam. Now there's a, but the psak of the Torah in the Shulchan Aruch is not like the Rambam. The psak of the Torah in the Shulchan Aruch is that these places are all chayav. They're chayav stam. And the Torah, he just writes that Elam Komos Shachayim Mezuzah the beginning Reish Pevav Echad Shari Batim Shari Chaseres Medinus Vayeros Refes Bakar Lulin Umitevin Otzashayim B'Shemen Abesa Isha Abesa Shutfin Kulin Chayavin doesn't specify. And it goes on in Halacha Beis the Torah Abesa Tevin Abesa Eitzim Abesa Bakar Stama Chayavin Ela Imken Shanashim Rochzas Bam. There's Stam Chayiv, it explains it, it qualifies it that they're Chayiv Stam unless the women take baths there. Azem Pturim. But Rambam Kasav Shein Chayavim Ela Imken Nashim Yoshev Luskasha. Avostam Pturim. The Rambam writes that they're Pater, but Dani Aver Rashdal Kasav Sarishana. I'm passing like my father, the Rush, that passing like the first Shita, like the Rif, that Stam is Chayiv. Now the Beis Yosef in Sif Beis, Master Lakasav Mordechai, based on this svara that if the women are rochzas behem, like which is the psak of the Torah and like the Rif, that these places are pater if women bathe there. So the Beis Yosef says in the name of the Mordechai that cheder mishkav nashim pater min mezuzah fish osel sham davar ganai. The room that women sleep in, the stomach, they also get dressed there all the time, and they omen to rumas there. So a room in the house, a regular room in the house, or let's say a bedroom where the women sleep, is pater, says Mordechai. And kasas smak vakolbo, an impressive list of Rishonim, the Mordechai, the smak, and the kolbo. He goes first and he says, "Zelashano." There been a parent says, "Beis mishkav nashim tura b'pnei chabsos rochzas behem u'miskashtas asman sham." And he brings and he says, Isa Yuma Perakama. Sarachiyun. So he brings a raya from Yuma Perakama, which his raya is obviously Argamora, to say that if it's Nashim Rochtas Behem, then everyone agrees that you're Pater. He brings also that the Tashbet says the same thing. So the Beis Yosef on all of them says that very impressive list of Rishonim. The Beis Yosef says on them, Ani Omer, I say, Misham Raya. They're all bringing a raya from our Gemara and Yuma that said that if Nashim Rochzas, they're Pater. So it's a very clear raya. He says, no, it's not a raya. The Ad Kan lo Patri b'Mesechas Yuma b'Nei Nashim Rochzas Sham Ela Beisa Teven and Beisa Bakar. It's only the only time we find in our sugya tour of Rochzas is only in those places like a Beisa Teven, like the straw house, the straw storage house, or the Beis Bakar, the barn. I will base dira mamish, but a real house, the room of a regular house, it's a base dira mamish. We don't find any tour in a real house because Nashim Rochzas Sham. Meaning the Beis Yosef is telling us an incredible and very, very chashuva, tremendous chiddush in our sugya, that the pshat in all these cases, and the only reason there's a machlokes about all these cases, stam or not stam, and rochzas will be a ptur the kuliyama, it's only because these makomos like a base of bakar and base of teven are not a base dira mamish. They're sort of a quasi dira, where on one hand, according to the tour, it goes like the Rif, and those that are Machayev, we say that Stam is Chayev, so it is a base dira. The Beis Yosef is saying, even according to them, even though it's a base dira, it's not a base dira mamish. It's a quasi sort of an in-between state. Like we found a few times already. We'll have a sugi and sukkah. Mr. Hashem we'll be learning that we might have seen it once on the Marmar Kamos. The Warren Daf Ches talks about sukkah sayotzrim. I think we had it at one point. That sukkah sayotzrim, we had a certain type of a sukkah that the pottery maker lives there in this little sukkah during the time of the shuk, and he has an outside sukkah, and so even though that inside sukkah is chayav in a mezuzah, but it's not strong enough vachiv to be mechayev its outside sukkah as a base shar to it. We see over there a yesod that such thing as a chayav mezuzah. It's considered a base dira, but it's not a full base dira. It's missing something in the level of base dira. And here also the Beis Yosef is saying that these are, if you say that stam is chayav, then we're not darshaning miyuchad l'chal the dira. So you don't need that it's miyuchad for your ikar dira. It's enough that you do some tashmishim, and a person needs to have, just like you need to live in a house, so you need a place to sleep and everything, but also you need places for storage. Part of life is you need materials. You need wood for firewood. You need your tevin for your beds or whatever you need your tevin for. And so you need a basic tevin. That's all considered a chelik of your dira of living, to have those places also, to have storage places. But since they're not miyuchad the dira, they're chayav, but they're not a dira gemura. They're not dira mamish. We'll call it a dira gerua. It's a one step removed from being a full dira. And so the Beis Yosef says that only such places, if nashim rochtzos, if you add to it an element of rachitza that they stand rumos, only there will it take away the sort of quasi chiyuv that it has to begin with. But a full house, a regular house that's a full chiyuv, based dira mamish, even if you rochtzos there, that can't take away the chiyuv. Then he goes on and says another pshat Beis Yosef that the place where the husband and wife sleep, he says that tashmish is less of a zilzal, the mezuzah, than umdu arumos, than a place that they bathe. Nobody bathes in their bedroom. The place of tashmish, that's considered less of a bizayon. Choretz a raya to him from Hilchas mezuzah from Hilchas sukkah itself, that the sukkah you're not allowed to do a tashmish bazui, but the Ramah says in Hilchas sukkah that tashmish is allowed in the sukkah because it's considered a davar mitzvah, not a tashmish bizui. So it's also not a bizui to the mezuzah because stamah there people are covered up, and the tashmish itself is not considered a bizayon from the mezuzah. So that's the second svara of the Beis Yosef. But the first svara, which is key to our sugya, is a hezber in our entire sugya that it's all because it's a quasi dira. The Bach, however, differs with the Beis Yosef. Bach is cholak on the Beis Yosef, and it says that the reason why the rooms are pater is not because it's a mafkia, the chiyuv from the room. Beis Yosef assumes that if they're rochtzos, then it has to be mafkia, the chiyuv from the room. And if it's not, then it still remains chayav. What do you do with that? So you cover it. We'll see in Mr. Shem, we see the halachas that in a place where the women would be uncovered, then the mezuzah should be covered. Maybe it should be in a kli b'toch kli, have an extra covering over it. But the room itself is chayav. Bach says that that's not the issue. The issue is that as long as it's not in macham that's miyuchad the rachitza, it's not a base amerchatz. So then he says hechad regilim hanashim derchatz beis acharef b'chadarim kanashim didan. Women do wash up in their rooms. So they didn't have really showers in those days. The men would go out to the beis amerchatz, but the women would have a tub of water and they'd wash up inside the house in the rooms. They would heat up the room a little bit and they would wash up in the room. So he says that that's what's customary in our places. Pshita, the pater min mezuzah. In those rooms that the women do that, it's pashat, they're pater min mezuzah, even though it's a bais gomer, diashar lochitza imken hi aruma. She's for sure going to be aruma if she's washing herself. The ikka bizayan de kisvei kodesh. It's a bizayan kisvei kodesh to have it there. So the Bach, I think, is going to Shitasa. The Bach learned earlier in the sugya that at a place that's a makam dira, A stam dira is considered dira's covered. We had the mute on our Gemara that has to be also the covered at the end of our Gemara. So the Bach learns that the only tour from mezuzah be'etzem if it's not a dira's covered. But even a house, even if it's miyuchad or rachitza, if it's a regular house, it's still a dira's covered. You didn't take away that it being a dira's covered. Be'etzem, it's for living. It's just you also do these other things in it. But why? So why should it be part of mezuzah? Because it's bizayin kesei kodesh. It's a bizayin to the mezuzah. It's how the cheftza and the mezuzah that it should be in a place. It says that we have drushes lo yervacha ervas davar that it's like just like you can't daven or say kriya shema malkum erva. Also, the kisei kodesh can't be malkum erva. They have to be covered, or they have to be. And the question is, where it even helps to cover them in a place that it's miyuchad lakach, that they're ruchtus all the time there. The Bach learns that it's a bizayin kisei kodesh. Mitzad the cheftza of the cheder, mitzad the etzem room, it remains chayav. It's just but it's a technical problem of bizayin kisei kodesh in the mezuzah, and therefore it should be patur even in a regular house. So it comes out a very sodistic machlokas between the Beis Yosef and the Bach. What would be the reason to patur? The Beis Yosef says that whenever you have a dira gemura, then there's always a chiyuv. So it could be a bizayin, so you have to work it out. You have to cover it. But the Bach learns that if it's bizayin kisei kodesh, then that itself is a patur. But when the room itself, it's a pashut that it is chayav because it's considered a dira's covered. So the Bach ends off talking over here. You can see it inside. It's an ois hey. It's good to see it inside where he says that there are many. There's a maril that says that because of this problem of bizayin kisei kodesh, it's only to put a mezuzah on the front door because they're concerned that the rest of the house. Then remember, they didn't have so many rooms in their houses; they had only a couple of rooms, and if they're doing rachitza and everything like that, so basically the whole house becomes like miyuchad rachitza. So the people would only put a mezuzah on the front door. He brings about there's a wealth, and Ram talks about someone who's wealthy had 24 doors. That was considered like Yotzim Aklal. Al Kapanim, he says that the Lomadim, the Bach says that the minig is to put on the kol mezuzah bais. It's very interesting. You have some of these non-from people that only put it on the front door if they put it on at all. They put it on sometimes left side or too high or crooked or whatever. But Al Kapanim, I never thought there was any makar for it at all. It comes out that there is actually a makar for that over here. That there were tzaddikim that put it only in the front door because they're concerned with bizayin kisei kodesh if it's in other rooms because people are walking around not dressed properly in front of the mezuzah on a steady basis. So the Bach says not that way. The minig is not to do that. It is to put it on, but he brings that. He says masha kasa v'chen amadavar vadahu b'malchuso. So he brings down that there's a very serious list of poskim that put mezuzah only on the front door, not anywhere else. So he says the minig is not that way. We know for sure that we do that, but we need to know that if it's a room that is going to be used constantly for, let's say, changing, changing diapers, etc., then in order to keep a mezuzah there, that it shouldn't be bizayin kisei kodesh, then we have to really have it covered up. To put an extra covering that's not the normal covering, so it should be considered a kli b'toch kli. Okay, we'll hold that with this, and so we'll go on to see next Marma comments for this. This is basically the sod, the foundation for a lot of shiles that are going to come up as far as like bedrooms and other types of rooms in the house. We might have a tashmish bazui in the house, so we'll have to see weiter as we go on. And but it's very cool to see inside. We haven't seen it yet. The Bach in Os Hey, where he discusses this whole thing at length, and we quoted a lot of it. And from the first part of Dira's Kavod, and then what he says on the Beis Yosef, it's very cool to see it inside, and Mr. Shem will go from there. Call to.